Saika Academy is a prestigious school for gifted students, nurturing talents in performing arts, athletics, and advanced academics. UASA recently transferred here, yet he's already become his mentor's punching bag. His mentor constantly yells at him in frustration, not because of what Yu has done, but because of who he is. The son of the legendary Subaru Ayase, a world-renowned actress and top student. Unlike his mother, Yu struggles. He's weak in martial arts and failed his advanced classes. Still, many students remain hopeful, believing that true prodigies often hide their talents. Subaru Ayase is an A-class graduate of Saika Academy, celebrated worldwide as a brilliant thespian with unmatched looks and daring performance stunts. Her talents span across many fields, and she graduated at the top of her class. With such a legacy, Yu's every move is under scrutiny, especially when he fails to live up to expectations. Despite Yu admitting that he has never been in combat in his entire life, his mentor insists on testing him. He claims that the three royals are curious about what kind of person Yu really is. Fueled by pressure and frustration, Yu charges forward and throws a punch with all his might, but when it lands, it feels like nothing more than a weak tap. His mentor finally loses his temper and slams Yu to the ground. Soon, murmurs echo throughout the stadium. Subaru Ayase's son is a complete failure. People often expect the children of prodigies to inherit their brilliance. Yu has lived with these disappointments since he turned 17. Still on the floor, he shoots a sharp remark at his mentor. The more mediocre you are, the more you obsess over talent. His mentor feels like he's speaking to Subaru herself. If nothing else, you truly inherited her face. Still, his mentor keeps scolding him for being mediocre, but Yu already knows that. He's seen his mother's brilliance firsthand. Without another word, he walks away. Everyone assumes he's simply used to losing, but they can't let that happen. The three royals place their hopes on him. His mentor, furious, decides to beat the talent out of him. But just as he moves to strike, a sudden kick hits him from behind. Standing there is Nico, followed by her two sisters, Kazuki, a best-selling theater actress, and Miwa, a sports genius with unmatched achievements. Nico herself is the top martial artist in school. Together, they are the three royals' highest-ranked students of each program. Yu, still lying on the ground, stares up in disbelief as the trio stands before him. His eyes widen in shock. Kazuki steps forward to greet Yu, and when asked about his advanced tests, it's confirmed. He's a mediocre hack with zero talent. It's a major letdown, especially since all three of them had expected him to join their respective programs. Of course, Yu already knows his own limits. In fact, he's already transferred to the general education program, a division they forgot even existed. With that, Yu turns to leave, but Nico stops him, telling him to clean up first. Apparently, it's an unwritten rule. The loser cleans the dojo, so he has to keep going. The three royals toss a few parting insults his way as they leave, and while Yu wants to talk back, there's nothing he can do. He picks up the bucket of water and begins cleaning. The next day, the martial arts program heads to the stadium for their usual practice, only to find the entire area sparkling clean. Yu, on the other hand, walks home lost in thought about his past. When he was younger, he used to dream of being praised like his mother. He would practice movie lines in front of the TV, but every time he saw her perform, he knew he couldn't match her brilliance. He kept searching for his strength, jumping from one field to another, but reality hit hard. He was just mediocre. That realization made him slowly distance himself from his mother, even though she was the only family he had. Then she fell ill. During her hospital stay, she often rewatched a movie she once co-starred in, a series about family life where she played the mother. It wasn't one of her more glamorous roles, but Yu liked it. She did too. While standing beside her hospital bed, Yu mentioned that his favorite part of the show was how every episode ended with a family dinner. Everyone gathered around, talking and laughing about random things. For the first time in many years, they had a real heart-to-heart talk. And in that moment, Yu realized that his mother only ever wanted a normal, happy family. Her final wish was just that, for Yu to have a happy family. Yu closes the notebook and walks off with his luggage in hand. His mother's wish was for him to have a happy family. Though he's not entirely sure how to make that happen, he's determined to try. He stops in front of a large house with the name Mikadono displayed at the gate. The place is massive. Still, Mikadono told him he could come in. So Yu steps inside, and to his shock, it's a full-blown mansion. Awestruck by the size and grandeur of the home, Yu starts to wonder more about who this Mikadono really is. He's about to unpack his luggage when, without warning, a foot lands squarely on his face. He crashes to the ground. Standing before him, fresh from the bath and wearing nothing but a towel, is none other than Nico. Realizing that Nico lives here and most likely mistook him for a criminal, Yu tries to explain, but Nico is already agitated. She's about to launch another attack when she suddenly slips and falls, giving Yu the chance to tease her a little. He even throws a towel over her head in an attempt to dry her off, but after a few seconds, Nico pulls away from his grip, clearly annoyed. Just then, the two other sisters arrive. Kazuki squints at Yu, saying he looks familiar, while Miwa immediately recognizes him and demands to know what he's doing in their house. Before Yu can explain, his phone suddenly rings from the table. All three girls freeze when Yu answers and casually mentions their father's name, Mr. Mikadono. He's checking in to see if Yu arrived safely. As it turns out, Yu's mother was an old friend and benefactor of Mr. Mikadono, so he decides to look after Yu in her absence, hoping for her talent to live on. But what's shocking is the three girls are Mikadono's daughters, though he conveniently forgot to mention that. Mr. Mikadono says he expects Yu to get along with his daughters, and Yu can only drop his phone in disbelief. He remembers his mother's dying wish for him to have a happy family. And now this is how a mediocre kid like himself ends up becoming family with three gifted sisters. The girls, upon learning they'll be living with Yu, can only scream in disbelief. Yu, on the other hand, feels like he's stepped into a bizarre dream. Nico, clearly irritated, reluctantly accepts the situation, saying it's their father's decision anyway. Kazuki is in disbelief that their father would take in someone she considers a failure. Meanwhile, Miwa flat out refuses to take care of a dumb mooch. It's obvious none of them are happy with Yu's presence. Still, Yu decides not to back down. He may be average, but he's determined to stay strong and live up to the happy family his mother once imagined. Yu formally introduces himself to the sisters, though none of them seem to care. As he moves to take care of his luggage, he accidentally steps on what appears to be a woman's undergarment. Kazuki snatches it away in a flash, clearly embarrassed. That's when Yu realizes the entire mansion is a complete pigsty. Taking a peek into the kitchen, he finds it in even worse condition. Kazuki was supposedly in charge of the dishes, but never got around to doing them. Broken glass litters the sink, and Yu carefully picks up the pieces one by one. It seems Kazuki had tried to wash them, just not very successfully. Then Yu turns to the mountain of unwashed laundry, which was apparently Miwa's responsibility. She casually admits she forgot how to do it, despite being capable of memorizing far more complicated things. To cope, she had scribbled washing instructions on her own hands. Nico, who's in charge of household chores, mocks Yu's aptitude test results, accusing him of exposing their failures. But Yu doesn't seem to care at all. After the sisters finish throwing insults, none of which he even listens to, the entire mansion is already sparkling clean. That's when Nico finally connects the dots. He's also the one who cleaned the dojo. Yu tries to win them over again, flashing a smile and saying he can clean like this anytime. He's got the looks, that's for sure, if only he weren't such a complete failure in everything else. The next morning, he wakes up to his alarm, expecting a peaceful day since there's no school. But that hope quickly fades when loud pounding echoes through the house. At just 7 in the morning, Miko is already training in her private dojo. In another room, Miwa is caught up in an intense game, furiously playing while debating with an opponent. Meanwhile, Kazuki stands in the kitchen, casually mixing a murky green beverage as part of her routine. Yu realizes he's nothing like the three sisters. Even without school, they all have plans for the day, leaving him alone in the house. He hopes they could share breakfast, but Kazuki seems to be in a rush. When he turns to Miwa, he finds her sitting comfortably with a mountain of snacks, clearly counting that as her morning meal. He tries to caution her about eating sweets before breakfast, but the glint in her eyes suggests he shouldn't bother. As he begins to prepare breakfast for himself, his thoughts drift back to life with his mother. Whenever he made breakfast, she rarely ate with him, always busy. She was constantly focused on herself. Yu knows this behavior well. Prodigies often live in their own worlds. If he couldn't even manage to connect with his own mother, how could he ever hope to live peacefully with three gifted sisters? While having his breakfast, Yu notices Miko eyeing his food. She's surprised to learn that he cooked everything from ingredients that were close to spoiling. When Yu offers her a plate, she's tempted to accept but quickly remembers her strict diet. His cooking may be impressive, but the meal is far too unbalanced for someone focused on martial arts training. As the three sisters rush to prepare for the day, Yu is left alone at the table. He recalls how his mother used to diet strictly for certain acting roles. Now it makes more sense. Kazuki does it to maintain her top star status, Miwa snacks to keep her brain sharp, and Nico follows a routine for physical performance. Prodigies often become so focused on themselves that they overlook the people around them. Yu remembers how even his mother scared him sometimes. He distanced himself, unable to understand her world. As the three girls rush out the door, they argue along the way, each blaming the other for running late. Just before they can completely leave, Yu stops them. He announces that they forgot something, prompting all three to rummage through their bags in a panic, only to realize they didn't forget anything at all. Annoyed, they scold him for startling them. That's when Yu calmly says what they forgot. Have a nice day. Instead of cheering them up, the words only creep them out. Still, they continue on their way, brushing it off. His message clearly didn't land the way he hoped, but Yu remains determined to keep trying. Nico mutters to herself that it was a stupid thing to say, but when she catches her reflection, her cheeks are flushed. Even Kazuki and Miwa find themselves thinking about it, though none of them will admit it. Deep down, they kind of liked it. Back at the mansion, Yu is washing the dishes when he receives a call from Mr. Mikadono. He's just checking in and informing Yu that he won't be home often due to work. That means Yu will be spending most of his time alone with the three sisters. Mr. Mikadono has a favor to ask as well. He explains that, as prodigies, his daughters will eventually face challenges of their own. He wants you to be there for them through those obstacles. If Yu succeeds, he believes the sisters will eventually open up to him. Still, it's a difficult request. You can't help but wonder how someone as average as him could possibly help girls so gifted. You still can't believe why such gifted girls would ever need his help, but Mr. Mikadono explains that Kazuki is facing a difficult audition. Nico is aiming for another National Martial Arts Championship, and Miwa has an upcoming Shaja title match. He wants you to support them through these challenges. With that, the call ends. While hanging the laundry, you can't shake the thought from his mind. He's just a mediocre guy, neither athletic nor academically gifted, so he doubts whether he can actually be of any help. Still, he knows failure is always a possibility, and he, of all people, understands how painful that is. As the son of a prodigy with no talent of his own, you learn early how hard it is to live with people's disappointment. If that pain is already too much for someone like him, he can't imagine how devastating it would be for someone seen as exceptional. Determined to make it work somehow, Yu grabs his bicycle and rides off to the market. If he wants to get to know them better, he figures he should start by sharing a meal with them. When Nico comes home, she's instantly startled by Yu's presence. She almost forgot he lives with them now. Yu is in the middle of cooking something and even invites Nico to give it a taste. Suspecting he's trying to win her over with food, Nico quickly refuses and tells him she already bought dinner for herself. She proceeds to take a shower and dry her hair, then heads out again, only to find Yu still in the kitchen, now in full chef mode. Watching him so focused on cooking makes Nico realize just how serious he is. He's surrounded by a mountain of cookbooks, trying to get everything right. Seeing this, Nico starts to think he's trying even harder now because she turned him down earlier. At the same time, Miwa arrives home and Yu informs her about the family dinner he's preparing. Nico still finds the whole idea ridiculous, thinking Yu is just desperate for attention. But the scene unexpectedly stirs up an old memory. Years ago, even when top chefs prepared meals, the three sisters would refuse the food that any normal kid would have been thrilled to eat. Nico, in particular, always strictly controlled what went into her body, pre-packed meals with just the right balance of nutrients to maintain her physique for training. That night, she eats alone in her room. But as she takes a bite of her meal, she can't seem to shake the thought of Yu's cooking. Miko decides to take a peek from her room. Seeing that Yu is no longer in sight, she quietly heads downstairs. But the moment her eyes land on the meal prepared on the table, she freezes in surprise. It's a perfectly balanced meal, specifically tailored for an athlete's diet. Just then, Yu appears behind her and begins listing all the nutrients included in the meal. He explains that he designed it to complement her training routine, and that's when Nico finally gives in and accepts her defeat. Yu even consulted a dietitian to customize the ingredients based on her needs. Realizing he made all of this just for her, Nico tries to hide her amazement but eventually takes his seat at the dining table to at least give his cooking a try. The moment she takes a bite and doesn't insult it, Yu lights up like a cheerful kid who just got his pet kitten to eat. Moments later, Miwa peeks from the staircase, eyeing her sister's plate. Unable to hide her curiosity and mild envy, she quietly makes her way downstairs. Though she tries to stay unnoticed, Yu spots her and immediately presents another plate, this one tailored precisely for her brain function. He even recites the nutrient content with the same enthusiasm. Nico is taken aback to realize that Yu prepared each of them a specialized meal. Miwa tries to brush him off with her usual attitude, but Yu doesn't budge. He stands his ground, hoping to see both sisters enjoy the food he worked so hard to prepare. Now that the two sisters are finally seated at the same table, they begin teasing each other like normal siblings, which brings a smile to Yu's face. But that moment is quickly cut short when Kazuki arrives. Yu eagerly presents the meal he specially prepared for her, carefully packed with nutrients to help maintain her glow and radiance as a star. However, Kazuki remains unmoved. Without even glancing at the dish, she turns away and heads straight to her room. Though part of her finds it heartwarming to see her sisters sharing a table like a real family, she refuses to join them. For her, none of it is meant for her. Not the table, and certainly not the food made by a nobody like Yu. Yu freezes in place, his hopes instantly crushed. Even Nico and Miwa are visibly annoyed by their sister's behavior. In response, Nico volunteers to eat Kazuki's meal instead, but Yu quickly stops her, warning that she might exceed her carbohydrate intake. If she gives in to rage eating, she'll end up chubby for sure. Miko is clearly irritated by the comment, but Yu assures them that from now on they can rest easy. He'll be the one preparing all their meals and managing everything that goes into their bodies. It's been 3 days since he was taken in by Mr. Mikadono, that he's made no progress with Kazuki. Still, he recalls Mr. Mikadono's request to take care of his daughters. While sitting in class, his mind drifts back to her, and he begins to wonder how he might understand her better. Suddenly, a thought strikes him. He stands up from his seat without hesitation, determined to finally make a move. He tries to visit Kazuki, and in the hallway, he spots a group of students crowding around her, admiring her beauty. Without thinking, he calls out to her and whispers, "Surround them quickly." Kazuki immediately warns him not to come any closer, but Yu puts on a pitiful act, reminding her how hard he tried to win her over through his cooking. Worried that others might get the wrong idea, Kazuki scolds him loudly, but that only draws more attention. The crowd begins to suspect that the two of them are in a relationship. Seeing the commotion grow, Yu panics and dashes away before things get worse. His second option is to seek help from Miko. He visits her at the dojo, where she's busy going through the training schedule with the martial arts team. The moment he calls out to her, Miko's irritated expression says it all. Two of her teammates step in, ready to confront him, thinking he might be causing trouble. Miko's angry glare only adds fuel to the fire. Realizing the danger he's in, Yu wastes no time. He bolts out of the dojo as fast as he can. Now he is down to his last card, Miwa. Inside the classroom, Miwa is casually playing on her phone while other students chat about their homework. To everyone's surprise, Miwa effortlessly blurts out the correct answer, making the others feel foolish after just discussing how difficult it was. On his way to Miwa's classroom, Yu overhears some students whispering about how Miwa is way out of their league. When he finally steps inside, he's surprised to find the cheerful, jolly Miwa sitting completely alone without any friends around her. Without hesitation, Yu asks her to have lunch with him, but Miwa refuses and casually walks away. Still, Yu refuses to give up. He chases after her, following closely no matter where she tries to run. His persistence turns into a full-blown chase around the school. Interestingly, they both run at the same pace, which only proves that Miwa is definitely not an athlete. After some time of running, they both collapse in exhaustion. Miwa admits that athletics isn't her strong suit, but she's still better than Yu. Yu brings up how quiet she is in class, to which Miwa replies that she simply can't follow the senseless conversations high schoolers have. She's royalty, which means she is completely different from them. When Yu says he can relate, Miwa raises an eyebrow. He jokes that he's royalty too, of the short, weak, and stupid kind. Plus, the looks he inherited from his mother are basically false advertising, which Miwa, surprisingly, agrees with. Yu tries to comfort her by saying their uniqueness makes them special, but his words falter and he forgets what he was going to say next, causing Miwa to scowl in annoyance. A few moments later, the two now have sandwiches in hand. Yu opens up about his ongoing struggle with Kazuki, which triggers a memory for Miwa. She recalls that when Kazuki was 3, she wanted their mother to cook just for her. She looked so happy back then. Maybe that's a clue. That conversation gives Yu a possible lead. Kazuki might be longing for a dish her mother used to make just for her. But the question is, what could that dish be? As Kazuki walks through the door, Yu eagerly shows her what he's about to cook, but to his shock, Kazuki suddenly collapses to the floor. When her two sisters arrive and check on her, Kazuki brushes them off, claiming she's just fatigued. However, her forehead is burning hot. Concerned, Yu heads into her room with a bowl of porridge specially made for her fever, but Kazuki shuts everyone out, insisting they're all overreacting. While making their way downstairs, the sisters talk about how Kazuki easily gets sick, and that her rehearsals for the lead role are especially brutal. Over the next few days, Yu continues sending meals to Kazuki's room, but each one returns untouched, accompanied by a note that simply says, "Take that away." Frustrated and worried, Yu finally reaches his limit, but Kazuki immediately drives him out. However, just as Kazuki tries to stand up, she collapses again, this time falling right onto Yu. Still, Yu doesn't give up. He volunteers to bring her supplements, concerned that she might miss too many rehearsals if her condition worsens. Suddenly, an idea strikes him. He'll act as her scene partner so she can continue rehearsing without leaving her room. After all, he's the son of the legendary Subaru Ayase. He even debuted at the age of 2, while Kazuki didn't make her debut until she was 6. Maybe he's not as hopeless as he seems. Picking up the script, Yu attempts to portray the princess who is betrothed to Kazuki's character. But the moment he delivers his lines, his performance falls flat. Without hesitation, Kazuki drives him out of the room. As it turns out, the only reason Yu debuted at age 2 was because his mother pulled some strings. He failed every audition that followed. To Kazuki, Yu has no real understanding of effort given that everything he had was handed down by his parents' influence. That night, Yu returns to Kazuki's room having read the entire script, but his performance shows no improvement. The next morning, he tries again after rereading it 10 times, yet even a school play sounds better. The day after that, he continues, but the results remain the same. Lying in bed, Kazuki reflects on how an amateur like Yu could never understand what it means to be a professional. She's always been admired, always cast in lead roles with immense pressure resting on her shoulders. Failure has never been an option. Determined to get better, Kazuki decides to step out of her room only to find Yu in front of the TV. He's watching the movie adaptation of the role she's playing. She realizes that even after school and housework, Yu spends his nights studying the role just to help her rehearse. The next morning, Yu's performance is still as wooden as ever, but Kazuki decides not to push him away. He did put effort into it after all. Then, unexpectedly, after Kazuki delivers her line, Yu responds with such emotion that it actually turns out well. It moves him to tears. After failing so many times, he finally did something right. Kazuki thinks it's ridiculous to cry over one good line, so she scolds him back to his senses. Still, deep down, she quietly hopes she can return to acting soon. Then Kazuki suddenly speaks. She's finally ready to eat Yu's cooking, but only under one condition. She hesitates at first, pulling a blanket over her face out of embarrassment before quietly reciting a list of things she refuses to eat. After all this time, Kazuki simply does not want them to know she is such a fussy eater. That morning, Miko and Miwa stare in disbelief. Kazuki is eating with them, and not just that, she's eating real food. Yu passes by, casually praising Kazuki for finishing her soup, and she shrugs it off, saying it's fine as long as there are no carrots. Unbeknownst to her, Yu had secretly grated some in. While eating his own meal, Yu feels relieved. It took time and effort to bring them all to the table, and they sure are a handful. However, by nightfall, his earlier joy fades. One by one, the sisters send word. They won't be home for dinner. Yu tries to act unaffected, but the disappointment creeps into his voice. Just when he thought they were finally becoming a family again. On the bright side, having a prodigy for a mother made him used to being left behind. She often wouldn't come home for months, buried in her work. But that same devotion is what eventually pulled him apart. Now he can't help but compare the Mikodono sisters to her. They're all prodigies, while he feels like a nobody in their shadow. Still, he can't ignore the fact that Mr. Mikodono personally asked him to look after his daughters. It's a responsibility that weighs heavily on him, even if he doesn't know how to fulfill it. In the silence, his thoughts drift back to his mom and her final wish, for him to have a happy family. The problem is, he doesn't know what a happy family looks like. Searching for clarity, he thinks of his favorite movie, the one where his mom played the loving mother. Watching it always struck a chord. There wasn't any heavy drama, just small smiles, laughs, and simple conversations. That's the kind of family he wants to create. Soon, his table is stacked with DVDs of the movie series. One by one, he watches them all until he reaches the part where his mom, as the lead actress, wears a wedding dress and marries the protagonist. She wanted him to have a happy family of his own, but he couldn't help but feel the weight of reality. Movies are far different than real life. So engrossed in the show, Yu loses track of time. The Mikodono sisters eventually return, tired from their respective errands. As they walk into the living room, they're stunned to find Yu teary-eyed watching TV. Miwa curiously comes closer to see what moved him so much and is shocked to realize he binge-watched the entire series. Kazuki silently recognizes the actress on screen, Sumaru. With this, she quickly assumes that Yu must miss his mother deeply. Taking a quiet breath, Kazuki tells him that he doesn't have to keep cooking or doing chores just to be accepted. Miwa chimes in, suggesting he take things easy. And Nico remarks that he's just a freeloader anyway. Yu seems taken aback by Nico's blunt comment. He stands up, firmly explaining that he doesn't see himself as a freeloader. Despite the differences he had with his mother, he realized they were more alike than he thought. So this time, he wants to do things right. He wants to connect with them and have a happy family genuinely. But the sisters don't quite understand. Nico scoffs, saying families are overrated, especially for people like them. Besides, how could someone like you possibly be considered family to them? Just then, the wedding scene plays on screen. The male lead's heartfelt vow to Subaru about wanting to build a family strikes a chord, but not in the way Yu expects. The sisters all freeze, having the same realization. They misunderstand entirely, thinking Yu wants to marry all of them and make them his bride. Clueless about the malicious thoughts the sisters are having, Yu presses further, asking Nico about her birthday. The sisters look at him with confusion, and he explains that since they're in the same grade, he wants to know who's older so he can figure out who the older sibling should be. As Yu continues to speak, all three sisters turn red with frustration. Without letting him finish, they snap that he's nothing but a freeloader and storm off in unison. Later that evening, while soaking in the bath, Nico finds herself thinking about Yu. It bothers her how indifferent he seems despite living with 3 girls. Just then, a scream echoes from the kitchen, jolting her. Yu forgot to buy bread for their sandwiches and is panicking over it. But when Yu turns around and notices her state, his concern shifts. He gently points out she's only wearing a towel and might catch a cold. Nico, thoroughly embarrassed, bolts out of the kitchen and nearly crashes into Miwa, who instantly notices how red her face is. Flustered, Nico insists it's just the heat from the bath, but Miwa isn't convinced. Nico had only been in there for 5 minutes. Miwa starts piecing things together. Nico never reacted like this when you accidentally saw her nude before, so what's different now? She squints at her suspiciously, and Nico hastily denies whatever Miwa was about to accuse her of. Just then, Yu walks in carrying a pile of freshly folded laundry and hands it to Miwa. As she reaches out, her hand brushes against his and her face immediately flushes pink. She jerks her hand back dramatically, leading Miko to suspect that she also has a little crush on you. When Miko says the word "also" without thinking, Miwa freezes. The implication is clear: Miko must have a crush on him too. Miko panics and the two start bickering, throwing denials at each other while Yu, completely unaware, calmly picks up the scattered clothes Miwa dropped and begins folding them again. Amid the squabbling, Kazuki steps in and scolds her sisters. Yu also turns to her and politely asks if she could place a pot on the top shelf, something he can't quite reach. Since Kazuki is in a surprisingly good mood, she obliges, but when Yu thanks her with a bright, sincere smile, her cheeks flush red. She quickly turns away, hoping he doesn't notice, but Miwa and Miko catch it immediately, so they begin teasing her too. Yu, still oblivious to what's going on, asks them not to fight, thinking it's just more of their usual bickering. The girls eventually disperse, leaving Yu alone in the room. However, as he looks around, he notices the scattered mess and starts tidying up. As he does, he reflects on everything. Movies are different from reality. Still, that time they all ate together, it felt genuine. He hopes they'll share more of those moments again. While cleaning the table, Yu picks up an old photo. It's the three sisters as kids, smiling brightly, arms around each other. They look so happy then, completely different from how distant they are now. Curious, he asks each of them who left the photo out, but none admit to it. He doesn't buy their denial. He's certain one of them left it there. Someone must still treasure that memory, and Yu decides he wants to help. The next day, the sisters inform him that each of them will be away for the weekend due to different obligations tied to their paths. During class, Yu struggles to focus, feeling uneasy at the idea of them growing more distant. So he begins quietly researching their destinations. As he scrolls through each of their agendas on his phone, he realizes something and an idea hits him. The night before their trips, Yu goes out of his way to prepare everything, making drinks for the sisters and even booking their hotels in advance to ease their load. He hands each of them a hotel ticket, doing his best to give them comfort. Miwa, however, scoffs that hotel food is usually bad. Yu teases that she'll miss his cooking, but she denies it with a frown. Still, he promises to cook them a delicious dinner once they return. The next day, Miwa heads into her first shogi match. Calm and precise, she reads her opponent's strategy and wins with sharp moves. As she's on her way to leave, her mentor approaches her. Tomorrow's opponent will be different, someone with the skill of a fourth-degree master, and the competition can get tough even for a genius like her. As Miwa heads back to the hotel, her mentor's warning echoes in her mind. A strong opponent awaits, who knows she'll need to squeeze in extra practice tonight. But as she walks beneath the cherry blossoms, the night festival catches her eye. The sight slows her pace, stirring memories from years ago. At the hotel reception, just as she's about to check in, Miwa notices Kazuki standing ahead and their eyes meet in surprise. Kazuki explains that her performance theater is nearby, just as Miwa realizes her shogi match is in the same area. Moments later, Nico arrives, just as puzzled to find them both there. Turns out, her competition will also take place near the place. Before they can make sense of the coincidence, Yu appears, smiling with his backpack slung over his shoulder. He admits it was him. Knowing the sisters hadn't talked about their plans, he secretly arranged for them to stay near each other. Yu just wanted to bring them a little closer again. The three find the idea ridiculous, but Yu insists it's a chance for family bonding, a moment for them to spend time together as sisters. Still confused about his presence, they ask why he's even there. Yu grins and tells them he's their festival conductor. Since tonight is the Cherry Blossom Night Festival and they're already nearby, he suggests they at least drop by. Though deep inside, he has a hidden motive. The same festival appears in the old photo they left behind, and he figured whoever treasured it might secretly wish to relive that moment. To Yu's surprise, all three sisters react the same way, thinking his idea is absurd, especially since they're there to compete. Anticipating their resistance, Yu explains that the festival's shrine is famous for bringing luck to competitors. Miko scoffs, saying only losers rely on prayers, not geniuses like them. In response, Yu pulls out a booklet filled with names of renowned prodigies who once visited the shrine for guidance. The sisters are visibly surprised. Yu adds that faith matters just as much as skill, and besides, he has a whole booklet entirely dedicated to the festival. He also shows them photos of the different foods sold at the stalls, which immediately grabs Miko and Miwa's attention. Kazuki is the first to respond, agreeing to go. She sees it as a perfect opportunity to gain engagement on her social media. However, she warns her sisters to dress appropriately if they plan to tag along. Unfazed, Yu reveals that he's already researched the best places to rent festival outfits. They head to a kimono store, and the moment the vendors lay eyes on the sisters, their faces light up with admiration. Yu requests kimonos for the three, and the staff eagerly volunteer to assist, clearly excited to dress them. Kazuki is the first to try one on, elegant, monotone kimono that highlights her natural poise. Miwa follows in a green kimono with a kitten pattern radiating her vibe. You can't help but take photos, smiling with admiration. When they look toward Nico, however, she's still sitting quietly in a corner. She mutters that she doesn't like wearing kimonos, but Yu gently encourages her, reminding her there are many styles to explore. A vendor then offers her a denim kimono, saying it suits someone strong and handsome like her. The moment catches Miko off guard. It brings her back to childhood, when she used to love frilly dresses, but people constantly labeled her a tomboy. That judgment has stayed with her until now. Yu hands Nico a pink kimono adorned with delicate cherry blossom patterns. Even her sisters are skeptical, whispering that such a soft, feminine style doesn't suit her. But Yu is confident it will look perfect on her. So now she has two choices, and it is up to Nico to decide for herself. Minutes pass, and Miko is still inside the dressing room while her sisters begin to grow impatient, wondering why she's taking so long. Then, at last, the doors slide open. She steps out wearing the pink kimono. For a moment, no one speaks. Her hair is styled gently to match the outfit, and the sight of her leaves everyone stunned. Nico mumbles that she probably looks weird, avoiding their gaze, but the way they're all staring, utterly in awe. The sisters, along with Yu, wander through the lively festival that night. However, Yu is caught off guard by just how popular Kazuki is. She quickly becomes the center of attention, surrounded by a crowd of starstruck admirers. Yu had hoped they could enjoy the festival together like a happy family, but it seems Kazuki has shifted into work mode, engaging with fans and posing for pictures. Watching her handle everything so gracefully, Yu hesitates to interfere. Fortunately, there's no need to. Even while chatting with fans, Kazuki keeps an eye on her sisters and soon notices Miwa and Miko happily sampling festival treats. Meanwhile, while other people are admiring Kazuki, there is this one girl who did not go with the crowd. According to her, Kazuki may be hot, but she is still a girl after all. Refusing to join the hype, she decides to walk away from the scene. Unfortunately, just as she turns around, the strap of her slipper snaps, causing her to lose balance and stumble forward. In that exact moment, Kazuki steps in and catches her right before she hits the ground. When the girl opens her eyes, she finds herself in Kazuki's arms. The crowd erupts in excitement, cheering over the unexpected heroic act. Without paying much attention to the noise around them, Kazuki carries the girl to a safer space. Yu, who has been watching from a distance, immediately trails after them, trying not to lose Kazuki amidst the sea of people. Once Kazuki ensures the girl is safe, she attempts to return to the main event, only to be pulled aside by Yu, who's hiding behind some nearby bushes. Now hidden, Kazuki is ready to scold Yu for the sudden move, but he quickly hands her a bag filled with food. Though Kazuki initially tries to refuse his offer, Yu pulls out one more thing, a small bandage. He had noticed earlier how she walked more gingerly than usual, so he assumes something is wrong with her sandal straps. Without hesitation, he urges her to put a bandage on her foot. Kazuki feels slightly creeped out, wondering if Yu has been watching her all this time. However, when he insists she show him her foot, he discovers just how bad the wound is, and she was still carrying someone in that state. Yu wonders why she never mentioned it, but Kazuki explains that as someone expected to play the role of everyone's prince, asking for help would only disappoint people's expectations. Yu, however, insists it shouldn't matter. Everyone deserves to be themselves. With that, he suggests taking care of her injury, and Kazuki finally complies. As Yu gently applies the bandage to the tender area, Kazuki feels a warm blush rising to her cheeks. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Miwa and Nico are at a festival stall. Miko is growing increasingly frustrated trying to catch a salmon with a paper scoop but fails every time, while Miwa bursts into laughter, her amusement only making Miko's irritation worse. Just in time, Yu and Kazuki arrive to join them, though Kazuki now wears a mask to avoid recognition. With that, the four decide to pair up Kazuki and Yu against Miko and Miwa in the goldfish scooping game. While playing, Miwa jokes that Kazuki should always wear a mask since it looks happier than her usual frown. After a while of playing, Miko breaks her scoop in frustration while Miwa effortlessly catches fish after fish. Kazuki accuses her of cheating, but Miwa smugly claims they simply lack skill. Yu, meanwhile, frowns at how seriously they're taking the game. Eventually, Yu quietly excuses himself from the group, intentionally leaving the girls to spend time together while he makes his way to another location. Yu bolts through the festival grounds with unwavering determination, heading straight toward a special event, the Lotus Hopping Competition. This annual challenge requires participants to cross a pond by hopping across lotus-shaped platforms and reach the Torii Gate at the end. The prize will be a photo with the shrine's golden guardian, which is said to bring great luck, especially for those who have upcoming competitions. Yu clutches a worn photo of the three sisters holding the same shrine from their childhood. His goal is to have them recreate that memory so they can relive their happiest moments together. Winning this game feels like the key to bringing back that bond. However, the challenge is far from simple. Contestants fall one after another, splashing into the water one by one. It turns out that some of the Lotus pads will sink without warning, so they need to find the sturdy ones themselves in order to succeed. Spectators murmur that the game is near to impossible. Even the hosts admit no one was able to finish the game for a decade now. Yet one of the hosts recalls a memory from 10 years ago when 3 young sisters succeeded. The next challenger steps forward, and with a deep breath, he leaps. But in an instant, he plunges straight into the water, instantly losing his first try. Undeterred, Yu climbs back out, and after the hosts announce that challengers can retry, he volunteers to go again, but his second attempt fares no better. He barely makes it past the first few platforms before sinking. One by one, the other challengers bow out, surrendering their chances, but Yu refuses to quit. He begs the hosts for another turn, then another, until at last he is the only competitor left. The skies darken, rain begins to fall, and the hosts plead for him to give up, but Yu stands firm. Staring at the Lotus pads, Yu imagines how the 3 sisters might have worked together, using each other's strengths to succeed. Then he makes a final run, and with one last desperate leap, he lands on solid ground before the Torii Gate. Finally, the host prepares to snap Yu's photo with the shrine, but he declines and sprints back toward the sisters' location. Yet the rain worsens, and announcements echo that the festival will close early. Soaked and breathless, Yu stops in the middle of the road, scanning the empty place. His heart sinks as realization strikes. Maybe they've already gone home. He recalls their earlier words about not wanting to attend, and doubt floods his mind. Perhaps he's been too pushy, risking driving them further apart instead of bringing them closer. Yu lies down and closes his eyes in defeat, but when he opens them again, he's surprised to see the 3 holding their umbrellas. The 3 wonders why he hasn't come back immediately. They thought he left them behind, but he's wrong. Now they want him to lead them back to the hotel. However, they couldn't get an umbrella for him, so each of them volunteered to share with him instead. Still, in the end, they still argued about it. Back at the hotel, the 3 sisters share the bath together. Kazuki and Miwa chat lightly about the festival. Nico, however, remains unusually quiet, her mind replaying what happened earlier. All 3 had wanted to share an umbrella with Yu, which led to a game of rock, paper, scissors. Nico won, and though it was only a short walk, the experience felt strangely overwhelming. Her heart pounded uncontrollably with every step, and even now, she can't understand why. Nico wonders if it's just because of wearing a kimono, but then she starts moving awkwardly, lost in thought. Her strange movements catch Kazuki and Miwa's attention, shocking them before they both burst into laughter, teasing her about wanting to be a real woman. When they finish bathing, the sisters are startled to find Yu stepping out of the lobby, drenched from dirt and rain. Curious, they ask where he's going, only to learn he forgot to book a room and the entire hotel is now fully occupied. He plans to look for another place to stay, even if he has to sleep in a net cafe. The 3 freeze in shock, but Kazuki suddenly speaks. She requests an extra set of bedding, and soon Yu is spreading a futon on their floor to sleep in the same room. This, of course, completely undermines his original plan of giving the sisters private time to bond. Still, leaving him out in the bad weather is unthinkable. Though they try to act casual, their concern is obvious. After all, they've shared a home before. Offering him shelter now feels like simple decency. Yu tells them to carry on as if he isn't there and goes to find a robe before taking a bath, but Kazuki accidentally steps into his path. He quickly apologizes and Kazuki feels her cheeks warm, though she tries to hide it. Unfortunately, there are no spare robes in sight. Miwa, however, insists there should be extras in the cupboards and begins searching. Yu joins her, and when she turns unexpectedly, their faces end up just inches apart, leaving Miwa flustered. Nico also starts rummaging through another cabinet. Yu notices a robe on the top shelf, which is out of her reach. Without thinking, he steps in close to grab it for her, unintentionally pinning Miko against the cabinet door. With this, her face turns red as Yu finally retrieves the robe. With that, he excuses himself and heads for the bath, only then realizing the room feels far too cramped for 4 people. From inside the bathroom, Yu keeps apologizing for intruding on their sisterly time. Meanwhile, the 3 stand frozen outside the door, silently wondering how they're supposed to relax with him around. That night, the 3 sisters struggle to fall asleep, each feeling oddly restless with Yu sharing the room. Still, they pretend it's just the lingering thrill of their events. Meanwhile, Yu lies quietly on his bedding, smiling to himself as memories from earlier replay in his mind. Despite the chaos, he managed to capture a perfect photo of the sisters with the golden shrine. Though their first poses were stiff, the final shot showed 3 genuine smiles, a true recreation of their childhood picture. Reaching into his bag, Yu plans to take out the old photo for comparison, only to realize it's missing. A wave of panic hits, but then his eyes catch a small note placed beside his bed. The message reads, "I took back the photo." He never expected anyone to claim it, but the thought brings him relief. At least the photo has returned to the person it truly belongs to. After a few moments, Yu drifts into a deep sleep, leaving the 3 sisters complaining. They rise, exchanging frustrated looks, realizing none of them can fall asleep. Each makes an excuse, blaming the festival excitement or their event the next morning before lying back down again. But drowsiness doesn't come easily. Instead, Kazuki suddenly mentions Miko's flowery kimono, sparking a conversation. Before they know it, they're reminiscing about their childhood, how their tastes were once so different. Except for Miwa, who hadn't changed a bit, she still has the same thrill whenever she gets to pick a kimono. Still, they feel grateful for the chance to experience the festival again after so many years. Their thoughts drift back to old memories, and soon, they tease Miwa for bragging about winning games back then, when in truth, it was Kazuki secretly helping her all along. That moment makes them realize something. They hardly talk like this anymore. Life has kept them busy, and even though they share the same house, they've been living in separate worlds. Deep down, they know this is exactly what you hoped for, and strangely enough, his plan worked. Miwa admits it feels weird, yet her heart warms. She pulls out the photo Yu thought he lost, holding it next to the picture on her phone. Both capture the golden shrine, one from 10 years ago, the other one from tonight. Staring at the images, she recalls Yu's determination to recreate that memory despite the rain and impossible odds. The next day, news spreads of Kazuki's flawless stage performance while Miwa and Miko ace their respective competitions. You can't help but feel impressed that despite spending the previous night goofing off the festival, the three still managed to shine. To him, they are really true prodigies. Back when the three were searching for Yu at the festival, they argued over how to find him without having his phone number. Miwa suggested posting a missing person notice on social media for Kazuki's followers to see. However, when they tried to describe him, their descriptions were too vague. Wanting to highlight his most unique trait, Kazuki mentioned his smile, even boasting that she had seen it up close. Not wanting to lose, Miwa bragged about knowing everything about him too, especially his cooking skills. Finally, Nico revealed how Yu cares for her by buying protein and sports tape. Realizing how personal the descriptions sounded, all three turned bright red. In the end, they abandoned the idea and decided to search for him themselves. Ever since the sisters attended the festival, Yu has noticed how much closer they've become. They look out for each other now, and the thought makes him smile during class. Then he remembers the promise he made before they left, that he would cook them a delicious dinner when they returned. That afternoon, Yu heads home carrying a bag of ingredients, determined to fulfill his promise. But as he reaches the front door, he notices something unusual. Curious, he steps inside, only to freeze at the sight of the sisters standing together, facing an unfamiliar man. Yu approaches quietly to get a better look, but the moment the man speaks, he instantly recognizes his voice. It's Mr. Mikadono. Surprised, Yu bows deeply in gratitude for taking him in. However, Mr. Mikadono emphasizes that Yu must develop the skills and talents his mother once possessed. After that, Mr. Mikadono shifts the topic to his daughters, requesting an update on their progress. One by one, the sisters report the successful outcomes of their recent activities, each sharing their accomplishments. He listens intently, then reminds them to stay focused and keep improving. With that, he rises to leave. Yu quickly steps forward, trying to stop him, even inviting him to stay for dinner. But Mr. Mikadono declines, explaining he only came to hear about their achievements. As he turns to go, his eyes catch something, the mask Kazuki wore during the festival. Curious, he asks about it. Yu, unaware of the consequences, explains cheerfully. He recounts how the sisters stayed together, attended the festival, and revisited their childhood memories. His sisters freeze as Mr. Mikadono lifts the mask and places it on his face. Then his voice hardens as he accuses Yu of interfering with his daughter's paths to success. Yu tries to defend himself, mentioning the lucky shrine and its meaning, but the words only make things worse. Mr. Mikadono's anger sharpens, filling the room's silence. Mr. Mikadono declares that he raised his daughters to be the best, insisting that attending festivals only waste their potential. He then turns to Yu, bringing up his lack of achievements. During his investigation, he discovered Yu has nothing to his name. Despite being the son of the famous Subaru Ayase, he is a complete failure. Harshly, he warns that talentless kids have no place in his home. Yu's eyes begin to well up, but Mr. Mikadono presses harder, gripping his shoulder firmly. At that moment, the sisters step in. They move between their father and Yu, each defending him in their own way. They insist that even without outstanding skills, Yu has made their lives easier and happier. Yet despite their words, they refuse to admit they truly need him, choosing instead to frame it as though he simply makes things better. That night, Yu eats dinner alone while each sister dines separately in her own room, just like before. Mr. Mikadono's words echo in his mind. Festivals are now strictly forbidden. Yu had prepared a meal for all of them, but they refused, claiming they no longer had time to eat together. A week passes, and their bond slips back to what it was when Yu first arrived. Reflecting on the encounter, Yu realizes that the sisters were shaped by their father's relentless pressure. Just when they were finally starting to grow closer, everything crumbled. During rehearsals, Miko's teammates notice her lingering again after several days of rushing home for dinner. She spends the entire day exhausting herself in practice, only to pull out a food packet at dinner time and take a bite. Yet what once tasted fine now feels bland. Elsewhere, Kazuki trains for her play. During break, she takes out her prepared smoothie, but it no longer excites her like before. At the same time, Miwa, focused on her shogi game, munches on her usual snacks without enjoyment. Her thoughts drift to the cute, delicious desserts Yu used to make for her. The meals they once ate without complaint now leave them unsatisfied. While folding laundry, Yu still can't shake Mr. Mikadono's harsh words from his mind. Suddenly, a thought strikes him. His dream of an ideal family, like the ones he saw on TV, seems far too mediocre for people like them. But then he remembers his mother, a prodigy herself, who once longed for that same simple happiness. In that moment, Yu resolves to keep pursuing his goal to create a truly happy family with the sisters. The next morning, the three head off to their respective classes, but before leaving, they pause at the strange silence in the house. Yu doesn't even bid them goodbye. Later, during lunch break, Nico sits with her teammates and pulls out her usual packaged salad. Her friends tease her about eating the same thing every day. She reaches for a protein bar, only to find a neatly packed lunch hidden in her bag. Opening it, she discovers a full, balanced meal tailored perfectly to her needs. Her friends' eyes widen and their mouths are watering at the sight. It's not just Nico who got them. Miwa and Kazuki also discover neatly prepared lunches in their bags, all thanks to Yu. When Neko's friends assume she won't eat it and try to take some, she quickly shields the lunch with her hands, refusing to share. In that moment, Neko is deeply moved by Yu's gesture. Her chest feels so full that she can hardly take a bite, overwhelmed by gratitude. That afternoon, while washing dishes, Yu notices all three lunchboxes are completely empty. He's still in shock when Kazuki approaches him with a bold proposal. Since Mr. Mikadono threatens to throw him out unless he proves himself useful, Kazuki offers a deal. As long as Yu keeps cooking for them, they'll let him stay. With Kazuki's auditions, Nico's tournament, and Miwa's match approaching, they need his support. Yu accepts without hesitation, ready to take on the challenge. Even if they see him only as a helper and not family, he's determined to cook for them every day. The next day, Yu sends them off with freshly packed lunches, cheerfully reminding them to have a good day. Yet his simple words catch them off guard, leaving all three flustered without them knowing. Kazuki stands in the studio's restroom, adjusting her wig and trying to look pretty in the mirror. Suddenly, the door creaks open and two girls enter, chatting about rehearsals before spotting her. Kazuki forces a calm expression, but beneath her poised exterior, something clearly weighs on her mind. Meanwhile, Miko, in the middle of practice, suddenly gets a phone call. Curious, she checks the screen, then answers with excitement. On the other end is a familiar male voice asking how she's been. He tells her he's just returned from an overseas tour and can't wait to watch her next tournament. Elsewhere, Miwa trains face-to-face with her mentor. Though confident at first, she loses yet again. Her mentor then poses a serious question, asking her to choose between two paths for her future. Yet Miwa remains uncertain of what to do. That evening, the three sisters head home carrying heavy thoughts. Kazuki faces her first female role, Nico must impress someone important, and Miwa struggles with a life-changing decision. Behind their struggles looms the weight of everyone's expectations, the school, and most of all, their father. Arriving home, the sisters find Yu in the kitchen, stomping on dough with his feet. He's determined to make udon from scratch, so it's perfectly healthy for them. But as he moves to press the dough harder, his foot slips, sending him tumbling to the floor. The sight makes the three burst into laughter. Since they're home earlier than expected, they decide to join him for dinner that night. After cooking, Yu serves each of them a customized udon bowl tailored to their individual needs. Curious, Nico wonders where he learned to cook as she takes her first bite. To her surprise, it tastes extremely ordinary. Her thoughts prompt Kazuki and Miwa to agree with her. The flavor isn't special at all. Yet, as they eat, they are reminded of something. Their father always made mediocrity seem evil, but upon tasting the udon Yu made, they realize that even the most mediocre ones can actually be this good. Yu washes the dishes that night, simply happy about being able to share a meal with the sisters again. Then suddenly, Kazuki approaches, stepping closer to offer help in doing the dishes. The gesture startles Yu, but before he can react, Kazuki calmly explains that she is only doing this because she wants to work on her feminine side. Yu, however, silently doubts this will help her achieve that goal. Kazuki begins to wash the dishes with determination, and while doing so, Yu casually asks about her audition, which prompts her to open up. Since it's her first female role, she's been extremely anxious about it all day. But somehow, after coming home, she completely forgot her worries, so she convinces herself it will be fine. While helping, Kazuki notices the bandages on Yu's hands. It turns out he cuts himself often and even burns his hands from pots. As they continue, Kazuki accidentally drops a plate, making a loud clatter, but it doesn't break. Yu explains he uses hard plastic so Kazuki can drop as many as she likes. As Yu arranges the dishes, his foot slips on the floor, sending him crashing down. His nose starts bleeding and Kazuki rushes to help, but she accidentally steps on a pair of chopsticks and loses her balance. In an instant, her lips collide with Yu's, resulting in an unexpected kiss. The shock freezes him, and when he finally realizes what happened, he blurts out an apology. Kazuki, however, remains composed. She calmly states it was an accident and turns to leave, casually reminding him to take care of his nosebleed. Her poise in the situation leaves Yu completely stunned and speechless. As Yu tries to stop his nosebleed with tissues, he can't shake the thought from his mind. Kazuki kissed a guy like him bleeding. For her, it probably meant nothing after all. She's had countless stage partners in romantic roles. But for Yu, it was his first kiss. The next day, dark skies appear. Miko casually predicts a rain coming, while Kazuki turns on the TV to check the forecast, only to be met with a kissing scene that leaves her momentarily frozen. Later, Miwa enjoys a jiggly dessert, catching Kazuki's eye. When Miwa compares its texture to soft, jiggly lips, Kazuki's face turns red. Flustered, she slams her coffee down and storms into her room, closing the door behind her. Suddenly, Yu barges in, startling her. Without hesitation, he brings up the kiss again. Kazuki masks her emotions, acting as if it were nothing. Convinced, Yu decides to forget it and leaves quietly. Once the door shuts, Kazuki's anger builds up, frustrated that the kiss meant nothing to Yu. During rehearsal, Kazuki realizes Yu is right. She needs to focus on her role. Still, the discomfort lingers. Taking a female part feels strange to her, if only not for her father, who insisted she master everything as a prodigy, leaving her no choice but to push through. Despite her efforts, her performance slips into her usual prince demeanor. It seems as if she is naturally masculine at birth. To adapt, she studies her colleagues, planning to imitate them. But when the rehearsal reaches a kissing scene, Yu's face suddenly flashes in her mind, breaking her concentration. Her mentor immediately senses something off, warning her that personal distractions could ruin her acting. The words strike Kazuki deeply, and by the time she gets home, she knows the advice is true. She asks Yu to prepare a stamina-boosting meal and handle a few errands for her. Yu assumes everything is returning to normal, until Kazuki casually asks if he's free on Sunday. Thinking it's another favor, he nods, only for her to lean closer. She tells him to go on a date with her. Yu freezes in shock, but Kazuki doesn't waver. She wants to go on a date with Yu. While Kazuki aggressively asks Yu out on a date, her two sisters secretly eavesdrop from the second floor of their home. They can't believe what they're hearing. Kazuki, of all people, is asking Yu on a date. Unsure how Yu will respond, the two retreat to their rooms before they get caught listening in. Downstairs, Yu remains confused about Kazuki's sudden proposal. Unsure of her intent, he decides to ask. In response, Kazuki shows him a flyer for an audition where she must play a feminine role. Having portrayed male characters most of her life, the idea of embracing a feminine persona terrifies her. She admits that her mentor once told her that personal experience should shape performance, and to grasp a heroine's emotions and mannerisms, she needs to experience a date. Now Yu gets it. They need to go on a date so that Kazuki can open up her inner femininity. Though she is already an expert on princely roles, this is something she must not take lightly. So with that, Yu agrees to take Kazuki out on a date on Sunday, and Kazuki warns him to keep it a secret from her sisters. She also warns him not to get the wrong idea, but Yu knows that already. Nevertheless, since he wants Kazuki to achieve her goal, he wants to add a little thrill and swears to make the best date for Kazuki on Sunday. When Saturday comes, Yu is casually cleaning the house when Miko asks him about his agenda for tomorrow, and he answers as if he has no important things to do, which only angers Miko, convinced Yu just lied to her. With this, Nico suspects that he is truly hiding something from them, keeping it a secret. Meanwhile, Miwa, after eavesdropping last time about the date, accidentally hears Yu swearing he will make the best date for Kazuki. His words make her so flustered that she runs out of words to even describe it. That night, the four gather together for dinner, but despite it being the first time they have eaten together after a while, the tension in the air is thick as the two are still suspicious about Kazuki and Yu. When Kazuki asks if Yu is ready for tomorrow, the two light up in silent anger even more. The next morning is the day of their date, and Miko and Miwa decide to put on a disguise and follow Yu to their meeting place. The two pick up a disguise fit from a nearby shop, and even though they choose goofy outfits for each other, they both end up slaying it. Watching Yu wait for Kazuki, the two can't help but discuss just how unthinkable this is. If anything, they can picture her with a girl more than a boy. Then suddenly, Kazuki arrives in a long black wig and a Sunday dress, leaving all three of them speechless. Despite her sudden urge to smack Yu, she tries her best to act charming like a girl. Yu compliments her, but she quickly explains that she's only trying to act like a heroine. With a charming tone, Kazuki then asks Yu to proceed with their date. They go to an aquarium first, and Yu is trying his best to make the date perfect. while Nico and Miwa follow behind, still in disbelief. As they walk down the stairs, Kazuki makes sure Yu doesn't stumble. Oddly enough, since she's supposed to be the damsel in distress in this situation. They switch places to stay in character, and when they arrive at the dolphin show, Kazuki claps lightly, trying her hardest to act as adorably as possible. When it's time for the dolphins to jump, water splashes on the bleachers, and instead of Yu covering Kazuki, it's the opposite. The crowd watches in awe, praising Kazuki as someone cool. This is supposed to be the perfect date, but things quickly go downhill. They break shopping bags, the waiter messes up their order, and Kazuki ends up with sore feet from wearing sandals. Soon she's worn out. Watching from afar, Miwa comments about their date being completely cratering. Later that day, Yu informs Kazuki he needs to use the bathroom, so Kazuki waits alone. Watching her reflection in the mirror, she realizes what a failure she is, just like Yu. Suddenly, a man approaches her, noticing her impressive physique. With this, he offers her a shot at modeling, claiming he works for a talent agency. Kazuki dares not reveal her true identity, so she tries to avoid him as much as possible, but he's persistent. Just as the scout tries to pull her away, Yu appears and snatches Kazuki's hand, firmly stopping him. The scout assumes Yu is her younger brother, but Yu quickly corrects him, saying he's her date. More importantly, he tells the man to back off. However, Yu hasn't come up with an excuse ahead of time, so when the scout keeps pressing for answers, he doesn't know what to say. He tries to make something up, but even in that field, he's still a total failure. With no other choice, he suddenly shouts that the scout can't have her because he's marrying her. The scout scoffs, thinking Yu is just being childish. And though he's only trying to make things better, Kazuki can't help but feel completely embarrassed. A scout eventually walks away, but whispers ripple through the crowd because of his accidental wedding proposal. Yu urges Kazuki to forget about it, but she doesn't think she ever can. Instead, Yu quickly grabs her hand and pulls her along to their next destination, without realizing he just did it so naturally. From a distance, the two sisters hiding nearby nearly lose their minds. As they walk hand in hand, an awkward tension settles between them. Neither of them lets go, but people keep mistaking them for siblings. Wanting to look more like a romantic couple, Yu tries to intertwine his fingers with Kazuki's, which completely shocks her. But his boldness works. Kazuki begins feeling those fluttery butterflies, and in the name of keeping the act, she intertwines her fingers with his as well. Their next stop is the cinema to watch a romantic film. Yu points out a movie where Kazuki's idol played the lead. She remembers how a year ago, that girl looked just like her, manly. It was her idol's farewell on the review as she was to debut in that film. It was her first feminine role, and Kazuki never brought herself to watch it, too afraid of what she might see. Yu, unaware of the emotional weight it carries, innocently says it might give Kazuki some pointers, so they go inside to see it. While watching the movie, Kazuki notices the lead actress hasn't shed her old acting habits at all. Though talented, she often played villainous male roles on stage. Her presence used to be more natural than most men's. But as a heroine in this film, she didn't quite fit. As the movie ends and Kazuki and Yu leave the cinema, murmurs fill the air. Some people criticize the actress, saying she still acts too much like a guy. Despite being a well-known star, in the end, she failed to win their hearts. At that moment, her father's words echo in Kazuki's mind, "Prodigy must never fail." Yu realizes just how badly he's messed up. Watching the movie only made things harder for her, and now he can only curse himself. Outside the cinema, Miwa and Nico share the same sentiment. The terrible movie has completely ruined the mood. They doubt Yu can even redeem himself after that. As the two silently walk, Yu presents their final stop for the day, a Ferris wheel. Kazuki is no longer in the mood, but Yu insists. From afar, the two sisters watch, scoffing at the cliché. But when a passerby mentions that the Ferris wheel churns out new couples like crazy, all of them stand stunned. Yu, however, is determined to end the day just as he planned, so he grabs Kazuki's hand and pulls her toward the ride. As the ride begins, Yu is captivated by the view. Kazuki, however, keeps her gaze on him, unable to believe how far he's gone just to help her. Her thoughts begin to drift. Ever since she was a child, Kazuki acted and dressed like a boy. She always felt different from the other kids, but she never hated it. Her tall frame led her to model early on, and at just 6 years old, she debuted playing male roles on stage. Back then, it was something she truly loved, but over time, it turned into something she had to accomplish. With every performance, more eyes were on her and more expectations were set. Her father only added to the pressure, urging her to take on a female role, something she never imagined herself doing. In her world, one failure could mean the end. As the Ferris wheel slowly ascends, Kazuki realizes that maybe she never should have auditioned for a female role at all, if it would only lead to failure. However, Kazuki's thoughts are interrupted by Yu's trembling. He's not afraid of heights, but the glass floor terrifies him. She watches in confusion, wondering why he chose this ride in the first place if he's this scared. Yu admits he only wanted the date to end perfectly. As the Ferris wheel reaches its peak, he gathers his courage and tries to ask Kazuki to become the best heroine ever, but he fumbles his words, turning the moment into an awkward mess. Kazuki sighs, tells him to sit down, and he obeys, still visibly shaking. Looking at Yu, Kazuki can't help but admire him. Yes, he's a failure. He messes up almost everything. But somehow she wishes she could be as unafraid of failure as he is. With a confident grin, he tells her it's because he's been failing all his life, but sometimes there's beauty in that. To explain, he moves beside her, pulls out his phone, and shows her a photo of herself, completely unaware. Kazuki cringes at first, but as he flips through more pictures, she's taken aback by how authentic she looks. Every photo captures a different side of her. She doesn't even recognize herself. With this, Yu tells her to show more expressions. He reassures her that while many people might hate imperfections, there are always some who find them beautiful too. Kazuki is flustered by his words, but does her best to hide it. By the time the ride ends, it's already dark. When Miwa and Nico spot them stepping off the Ferris wheel, they quickly duck out of sight. Watching their smiling faces from afar, the sisters can only wonder what happened during the ride. While walking home, Yu and Kazuki casually talk about her upcoming auditions. Kazuki admits that all this time she's been playing roles others expected of her. But now, she wants to perform in her way even if she stumbles. Yu gently reassures her, saying that if she ever blunders, she can just remember their date. Embarrassed, Kazuki suddenly bolts ahead, leaving Yu behind. Meanwhile, Miwa and Miko, still secretly watching, whisper to each other, unsure how to react if the two keep acting like this back at home. Kazuki is determined to do her best at the auditions. No matter the outcome, she's resolved to stay true to herself. Then, with one swift move, Kazuki leans closer to Yu. For a moment, he thinks she's going to kiss him, but instead, she brings up the kiss itself. It was her first too, and she admits it's not something she can forget so easily. Hidden behind the bushes, Miwa and Nico are stunned, unable to catch what Kazuki whispered, but rattled by the moment. After speaking, Kazuki takes off her wig, back to playing the prince. She needs to return to the theater for rehearsals, so she heads off, waving goodbye. Miwa assumes she's simply back to her usual self, but Nico senses something deeper, something changed entirely within Kazuki. Back home, Yu scrambles to prepare dinner. Miwa and Nico act like they know nothing, but they bombard him with questions. He dodges with awkward excuses. When they greet him with a casual welcome home, Yu lights up with joy and even asks them to say it again. The sisters are startled he's making such a fuss over a simple phrase. They pretend to be annoyed, but deep down they want him to support them too. While walking to school, Nico and Yu are both buried in their notes preparing for an upcoming test. You can't understand how Kazuki and Miwa remain so calm during test days, but in truth, they simply aren't the type to cram at the last minute. Nico, however, is different. With her grades in bad shape, she studies extra hard, determined to improve. Yu asks to compare notes. Even though they're in different classes, some lessons overlap. As Yu tries to share his own notes with Nico, a man suddenly rushes past and bumps into him. Turning to look, Yu realizes the man is a robber, confirmed by a girl shouting behind them that her bag has been stolen. With that, Yu immediately takes off after the thief, though his pace is so slow that even the thief glances back in disbelief. Distracted by this, the man fails to notice Nico standing directly in his path. The thief, however, quickly recovers and boasts about his martial arts background, moving to counterattack. He's clearly skilled and tough, but Nico refuses to back down. From a distance, Kazuki and Miwa, on the other hand, remain calm, certain their sister can handle herself. Their confidence proves right as Nico knocks the man out cold. She grabs the girl's stolen handbag and scoffs at the defeated thief. They don't realize that a small crowd has already gathered. As the crowd swarms the shaken victim, Nico quietly stands off to the side, concealing a cut on her hand. Yu notices immediately, rushing to wrap it in a bandage. Though Miko insists she's fine, his gentle care leaves her unexpectedly flustered. While everyone is distracted, the thief seizes the chance to slip away. Unfortunately for him, he collides head-on with a group of men. The first in line reacts instantly, delivering a single precise kick that knocks the thief out cold immediately. The crowd quickly begins to murmur, recognizing the man as Tatsumi, the renowned martial arts prodigy from Iwayama High. The sisters recognize him too, as he used to visit their house often when they were young. Nico, however, is left stunned. Tatsumi has been her idol for as long as she can remember. What catches everyone off guard even more is when Tatsumi immediately tells Nico that he is here for her. At Saika's school dojo, they receive surprising news. Iwayama High's team will be training with Saika's team for an entire week. Adding to the surprise, Yu technically has no reason to be there, is also present. As it turns out, Nico's earlier encounter with Tatsumi has been bothering him, prompting him to tag along. Watching the way Nico admires Tatsumi, Yu silently concludes that this man must truly be an unbeatable one. However, it's not just that. When they were younger, Miko and Tatsumi actually train in the same dojo, though they still think that Tatsumi is bad news. To make matters worse, female martial artists flock around him, praising his looks which are far beyond anyone in Saika. Suddenly, Nico calls out from behind, challenging Tatsumi to a spar. He hesitates, reluctant to go against a girl, but Nico is persistent. Soon, the two stand face to face, each team cheering for their captain. With a swift kick, Tatsumi knocks Miko out of the match, stunning her teammates as they have never seen her lose. Miko can't believe it happened so easily and insists on going again, but Yu steps in, not wanting her to get hurt. He even scolds Tatsumi for not taking it easy, but in reality, Tatsumi is already taking it easy on her. Now alone on the sidelines, Nico opens up to Yu about how Tatsumi used to be her hero. On her very first day at the dojo, she managed to defeat all the older boys. Naturally, they were furious and tried to gang up on her. But before she could get hurt, Tatsumi stepped in, protecting her from danger. Though he had to move away when he entered middle school, they crossed paths again at the Nationals. Since then, he's been her source of strength. Yu is taken aback. He has always seen Miko as the strongest, never realizing she, too, looks up to someone. Their conversation is interrupted when Tatsumi approaches. After seeing her potential firsthand, he says he wants to take her with him. The crowd, including Yu, reacts in shock. Tatsumi explains that he wants Miko to join Iwayama High's team. Though it was once an all-boys school, it recently became co-ed. He's even spoken with Mr. Mikadono about it already, convinced this is the best way for Nico to reach her full potential. Tatsumi also points out how weak Miko's opponents are at Saika High, which instantly sparks negative reactions from her teammates. But his words get harder when he adds that while Miko has always helped them train, no one has truly helped her improve. The realization leaves her teammates stunned, feeling as though they've only been holding her back. Nico tries to defend them, but to her surprise, they agree with Tatsumi. Seizing the moment, Tatsumi urges her to join him at Iwayama High so they can become the best in martial arts together. Later, as everyone heads home, Yu catches up to Nico, insisting on walking with her. He congratulates her on receiving such a recruitment offer, but Nico avoids talking about it. Yu senses something is off, unsure how she truly feels. She admits it is quite an honor. The Iwayama High is a boarding school that hires professionals to manage diet and living conditions for its students. It's the perfect environment for prodigies like her. Hearing this, he was impressed, but he can't ignore the fact that it's still a boarding school. Similarly, Nico's older self would have leaped in excitement at such news, but now she's uncertain. Thoughts of her sisters and Yu linger heavily in her mind. When they arrive in front of their home's gate, Nico says something completely out of character. She tells Yu she wants to stay with him. Surprisingly, a voice from nearby agrees. It's her martial arts teammates. They confess they feel the same way about her leaving. They want her to stay, though they wouldn't hold her back if joining Tatsumi would truly help her improve. That's all they came to say before quickly taking their leave. Miko is left confused by their sudden ambush, but Yu points out that it's proof of how much her teammates care for her. They all want her to stay. That's how devoted they are. With that, Yu heads inside, eager to cook dinner, while Miko remains outside, still processing everything. During dinner, Kazuki unexpectedly permits Miko to use her shampoo and conditioner. Miko is stunned, remembering how Kazuki once snapped at her for using it by mistake. Meanwhile, Miwa quietly offers her sashimi, something she never does, even if she forces her. While washing the dishes, Miko admits that eating that dinner somehow eased her worries. Her two sisters were almost too nice to her. Yu then shares that everyone at school already knows about her recruitment, so maybe it isn't just her teammates who want her to stay after all. Later, while taking a bath, Nico reflects on Yu's words. She can't believe even Kazuki and Miwa might be against her leaving. Yet, in the middle of her thoughts, an image of Yu suddenly pops into her head, leaving her flustered. When she steps out, she notices Yu still working in the kitchen. For a moment, she wonders what he truly thinks about all of this. The next day at Saika's dojo, their team trains alongside Iwayama's, quickly realizing how strong they really are. However, when Mako arrives, she immediately approaches Tatsumi and firmly tells him she wants to reject his recruitment offer. She has decided not to join him at Iwayama High. The crowd is shocked by her declaration, but Tatsumi refuses to accept her answer, calling her decision lacking in ambition. Though Miko understands the opportunities it could bring, she knows it's not her only path. Tatsumi is taken aback. It's unlike the Nico he remembers. Deep down, Nico knows her true reason lies with her sisters and Yu. Still, Tatsumi cuts her off, insisting she should go, even going so far as to suggest she'll be nothing more than an ordinary girl if she doesn't push herself harder. Miko hesitates, unsure of what to do, when a sudden clatter from inside a locker draws everyone's attention. Yu steps out, revealing that he has overheard everything. While walking closer, he explains that he understands Tatsumi's intention. He only wants Miko to stay at the school if her skills are exceptional enough to meet his high standards. Tatsumi confirms this is correct, but also points out that Saika simply lacks the rigorous training Miko truly needs. Without a moment's hesitation, Yu challenges Tatsumi to a fight. When asked why, he replies that he wants to stay by Nico's side. Nico's eyes brighten at his words, and the crowd watching begins to murmur in excitement. Yet despite that, everyone knows there's no way an ordinary student like Yu could possibly match someone of Tatsumi's skill. Tatsumi is the nation's top martial arts practitioner, having won 3 individual championships. Yet Yu is, after all, the son of the famous Subaru, which might give him a chance. Tatsumi, expecting Yu to be another prodigy, is taken aback by his persistence. He asserts confidently that Nico will go with him regardless, while Nico tries to intervene, fully aware of Tatsumi's overwhelming skill. Still, Yu remains determined, insisting he will fight for her. With this, the crowd cheers him on fervently. Seeing no other option, Nico reluctantly allows the two to compete for her. Tatsumi also accepts the challenge, and the match is scheduled for the last day of the joint training. A clear condition is set: if Yu loses, Nico must join Tatsumi. Now at home, Miko scolds Yu for making a promise with Tatsumi, knowing the consequences are serious. Realizing her future rests on his success, she begins training him diligently. She starts with the basics, teaching him proper stepping, though Yu's attempts look more like clumsy hopping. They progress slowly, analyzing Tatsumi's strengths and strategizing on how Yu can get close enough. During practice, Yu demonstrates the technique with Miko. The sudden closeness startles her, and she instinctively reacts, punching him in the face. While getting ice pack for Yu's wound, Nico once again scolds him for interfering, frustrated by his persistence. Yu admits that his chances of winning against Tatsumi are slim, acknowledging that he is a true prodigy, but he insists he wants to try his best. He explains that his efforts aren't just for himself. He wants to stay close to Nico. Miko becomes flustered at this, but what he truly means is staying close with Nico and her sisters all together. Though Yu considers himself a freeloader, he has grown fond of seeing the 3 sisters together, and now he encourages Miko to share her own thoughts. As he steps closer and closer, he corners her gently, explaining that since he is fighting for her, she should be honest about why she turned down Tatsumi's offer. Miko hesitates for a while, worried her reasons might sound stupid. She finally admits she will miss her teammates, but more importantly, she doesn't want to leave home because she has grown to cherish Yu's presence as well. Her honesty shocks Yu, and she adds that seeing Kazuki and Miwa's competitive nature every day also motivates her. As Nico finally reveals her answer, the door suddenly swings open, revealing Kazuki and Miwa quietly eavesdropping on their conversation. They pretend not to have heard anything, but their expressions give them away. Sensing the challenge Yu is about to face, Kazuki offers to lend a hand if needed, while Miwa cheers him on. You can't help but feel a surge of happiness, realizing he isn't facing this match alone. That night, Kazuki and Miwa show up in pink aprons. Miko is startled to see them dressed like that, but they explain it's their way of supporting Yu, wearing the same apron as him. Yu smiles at this, remembering how bad they all were at housework when he first arrived. The two take charge of dinner, warning everyone it might take a while since their cooking doesn't look so great. When asked why they're so determined, they admit they don't want to rely on instant meals anymore, but deep down, they only want Yu to praise their cooking. Before long, the kitchen is a disaster. Exhausted, Kazuki and Miwa collapse at the table. Yu steps in, offering to help teach them properly. They refuse at first, but he insists their effort shouldn't go to waste. Even Nico admits this might be her only chance to taste their cooking, convincing them to try again. With this, the two finally rise from their sulking and start by boiling broccoli in a pot. Yu advises Kazuki to memorize the recipe to avoid mistakes. After all, she should be a pro at memorizing since she always works with scripts. Meanwhile, Yu teaches Miwa how to peel a potato properly. She follows his instructions so earnestly that she ends up calling him sir, only realizing it afterward, leaving her flustered. Watching them work so hard, Yu realizes that even prodigies struggle when it comes to things they aren't good at. It reminds him not to give up either. After some time, the three finish cooking. This time, they've made Miko's favorite dish. Looking at the table, she can't believe they went through so much trouble for her, especially after their first attempt was such a disaster. Kazuki urges her to eat while it's still hot, so Miko sits down, takes a bite, and instantly praises the taste. Yu is delighted to hear this, but when he tries to pick up his spoon to finally enjoy the meal himself, his hand begins to tremble uncontrollably. No matter how hard he tries, he can't hold the spoon steady. It seems his hands have completely given out after the exhausting training he endured. Seeing this, Miwa quietly scoots a spoonful from her own plate and without hesitation offers it to Yu. Her action startles the other two, and upon hearing his compliment, Miwa smiles softly, her face turning red. Not wanting to be outdone, Kazuki quickly follows, taking her own spoonful and feeding Yu as well. Everyone reacts again, surprised by the sight. Both Miwa and Kazuki realize they have always been on the receiving end, never the ones to give, yet now they understand how rewarding it feels. 3 days before the match, Kazuki and Miwa are still completely devoted to taking care of Yu. They prepare towels and bring him lemon slices. Meanwhile, Nico can only watch with growing disgust. Still, even when Nico insists it's already late and time to stop training, Yu refuses to quit. 2 days before the match in Saika High, Tatsumi is already fired up, eagerly waiting to face Nico again. He recalls her earlier words about not wanting to enroll in his school, and his frustration boils over. By chance, he runs into Nico in the hallway. Looking her over, he sneers she's grown weaker, not only in martial arts but also in spirit. Depending on someone else's strength to make decisions is pathetic, he says with cold disappointment. As he turns to leave, he declares his vow. He will defeat Yu and afterward take Nico to his school to beat her back into shape. The night before the match in their home dojo, Yu pushes himself through training. Nico can clearly see the progress he's made, yet despite that, she cannot shake off Tatsumi's words echoing in her mind. Guilt stirs in her chest, and she suddenly apologizes to Yu. If it weren't for her, he wouldn't have had to endure such hardship in training. To Nico, it feels like she's the one who has lost her way. She reflects on how she was always supposed to be the strong one. Her father's words and Tatsumi's remarks replay in her mind, reminding her strength is her only true talent. Everyone expects her to embody it, her family, her teammates, even herself. But deep down, she knows there's more to her than that alone. Behind her tough exterior, Nico is still a girl who gets scared, who is drawn to cute and ordinary things. Yet those same words have always pushed her to hide that side, to deny her femininity, leaving her torn and uncertain. With a heavy sigh, she admits she's not feminine at all, and once again apologizes to Yu for being such trouble. But Yu brushes it off, saying he knows she's been acting out of character more than she realizes. This only makes Nico furious, insisting it isn't true. Calmly, Yu reminds her when he first met her, he honestly thought she was like a monster brought to life. Yet the more he got to know her, the more he saw a different side. Someone prim, proper, even curious about beauty and fashion, and someone who secretly loves looking at flowers. Nico cringes just listening, quickly cutting him off, accusing him of watching her all the time. But Yu explains it isn't like that. He only notices because every time it feels like he's seeing a new side of her. His words catch Nico off guard. She doesn't really want you to see that side of her, and he continues, saying all those sides together are what make her who she is. Her strength and her vulnerability both matter. Yu speaks with such conviction that Nico is startled. Frustrated and embarrassed, she punches him in the face. Still, his words linger. He's the only one who has ever told her that, and the thought makes her cheeks flush. However, Nico is still torn. She wants to make her own choices, yet she also relies on Yu's help, leaving her indecisive. Yu presses on, saying they should face Tatsumi together for her sake. But Nico argues it's unfair, so Yu insists she leave everything to him. On the day of the match, Kazuki, though in rehearsal, suddenly feels unusually nervous. At the same time, Miwa rushes through her shogi game, unable to focus. Both sisters are distracted. Their thoughts revolve around Nico and Yu, worried about their match. In the school's dojo, cheers fill the atmosphere as Tatsumi faces both Yu and Nico. The crowd is confused. Yu is supposed to be the only one fighting, yet Nico stands beside him. Yu quickly explains the two of them will face Tatsumi together. If Nico proves herself stronger, she will stay in Saika High. For Tatsumi to succeed, he must defeat at least one of them. The audience is stunned, but Tatsumi eventually accepts. As the match begins, some students start recording and whispers ripple through the crowd, most of them directed at Yu. Still, he pays no attention to any of them, as his only focus is protecting Nico. Nico herself doubts how Yu can possibly win, but he calmly explains his plan. He will fight first, wearing Tatsumi down and hurting him enough to give Nico the advantage, even if it means becoming a sacrificial lamb. When the match officially begins, Nico notices Yu's hand trembling, so she grabs it to steady him. The crowd instantly erupts, teasing Nico until her cheeks flush red. She quickly tells Yu not to be scared. Yu expects her to add some words of encouragement, so he waits, not realizing Tatsumi is already prepared. Instead, Nico smacks him forward, forcing him into the fight. Now standing face to face, Tatsumi swears he will take Yu down. But Yu is determined to show the results of his training with Nico for the entire week. However, the moment the referee signals the start of the match, the fight ends almost as quickly as it begins. The crowd is unsurprised. He only trained for a week after all. Watching this, Nico can only jokingly thank Yu for driving her into this battle. Even if he lost, Nico knows Yu gave his all in that short week of training. Now it's Nico's turn to face Tatsumi, but has only been a week since he defeated her so easily, so her confidence wavers. Still, this moment is crucial. If she loses, it may be the end of her time with her sisters and Yu. Before the match begins, Yu wishes her good luck, and his words give her a spark of hope. With newfound determination, Nico steps forward and the fight officially begins. She makes the first move, which the crowd praises, but Tatsumi dodges instantly. Keeping his strengths and weaknesses in mind, Nico tries her hardest to strike. Yet no matter how many punches she throws, Tatsumi blocks all of them with ease. Miko's speed is undeniable. Even with her small frame, her teammates call her the Thunderbolt of Saika. But soon Nico notices something. Tatsumi still hasn't attacked once, only dodging her every move. It's as if he already knows everything she's about to do. Then, while she's caught in thought, Tatsumi gives her a middle punch, earning the first point. Tatsumi has watched Nico fight since she was a little girl, so he knows exactly how she moves. Miko has always been fast, but her martial arts remains mostly textbook, which makes it easy for him to read her. Still, Nico fights back, but before it can land, Tatsumi counters with a swift kick, stopping her in her tracks before she can even reach him. Tatsumi degrades Nico with his words, prompting her to attack again, but as usual, he dodges and counters with a middle punch. Now he has 2 points, one more and he'll be declared the winner. Whispers spread through the crowd, speculating just how impossible Tatsumi is to beat. Miko reflects, realizing her martial arts is nothing compared to Tatsumi's. Not wanting to fight anymore, he urges her to surrender and come with him. Even Nico wonders if that's the right choice. She doesn't want to be a loser, so maybe going with him really is the best option. But then a voice echoes from the crowd. Yu is cheering for her. Soon, some of her teammates join in, even waving banners to show their support. Though Miko feels horrified and embarrassed, unsure if that will even help her win, it warms her deep inside. Yu has always been weird like this since their training, and the thought makes her smile. Realizing this, Nico snaps herself out of it. Laughing in the middle of a match isn't like her at all. But remembering Yu's words about her having different sides, she decides to let them all show. As she rises to try again, Tatsumi immediately notices something has changed. When Miko attacks again, he thought she would act in her usual ways, but he couldn't read her move anymore. This time, she strikes in the opposite direction, surprising him with an upper kick he didn't expect. Her second strike comes just as unpredictably, catching him off guard. Before he can even recover, Nico pushes forward with both feet, knocking him back. This isn't like her usual fighting style at all. She has always been conventional, sticking with textbook martial arts, but now she isn't. What's more interesting is she's smiling in the middle of the fight. Right on time, Kazuki and Miwa arrive to witness her match. Tatsumi realizes Miko has truly changed, but even this new side of her is part of her true self. With one final push, Nico strikes an upper kick again and knocks Tatsumi down. With that, the referee declares her the winner with full points. The crowd grows wild, they can't believe it. Just 1 point away from losing, Nico still managed to pull through. Meanwhile, Tatsumi's teammates are stunned their captain has been defeated. Surrounded by cheers from Yu and her teammates, Nico feels tears welling in her eyes. She tries to hold them back, but when Yu rushes over and gently wipes her tears, she can no longer contain herself and begins to cry. Her teammates watch in shock, seeing their usually composed captain breaking down. Nico makes an effort to hide it, but the emotions are too strong. Instead, she leans closer to Yu, allowing herself to cry freely, even if just for a moment. Nico and Tatsumi meet one last time after the match. Though Miko knows Tatsumi only wants what's best for her, there is nothing more he can do. She brings up Yu's quick defeat in the fight, but Tatsumi admits Yu still left his mark. He shows her his leg covered in bruises from Yu's strikes. It's because of that injury that he could not dodge her final kick. Seeing how far Yu is willing to go just to make Miko stay, Tatsumi assumes Yu must truly care for her. Miko, however, refuses to believe it. Tatsumi feels guilty for telling Miko he wanted to recruit her to make her stronger, because the truth is far more personal. He confesses that he really likes her. Miko is stunned but responds politely, as if it were nothing serious. Tatsumi is surprised at how casually she takes it, until he realizes she misunderstood it entirely. Miko assumes it's only a kind of fondness, but Tatsumi quickly clarifies that what he means is that he has genuine feelings for her. Only then does Nico finally grasp the weight of his words. She wonders how long it has been this way, and Tatsumi admits it has always been, ever since they were children. Now that his intentions are laid out, he asks what she thinks, but Nico struggles to process, let alone answer. Seeing her conflict, Tatsumi stops her, afraid it will only make him jealous of Yu. After that, Tatsumi leaves while Nico stands frozen. She has never thought of Yu in that way, yet as she recalls his words about embracing every part of herself, heat rises to her cheeks. Maybe she doesn't have to reject her feelings after all. On her way home, Nico fumes in silence. The three of them left without waiting for her. For a moment, she even questions her decision to stay with them. But when she opens the door, she sees decorations scattered across the house and a banner stretches across the wall, congratulating her on her victory. Yu immediately notices her and greets her warmly as he stirs food on the stove. When Nico finally asks what's going on, Yu explains it's a party for her win and for staying. Upon seeing Yu cook, Miko is stunned. She scolds him gently, telling him he should have let his wounds heal first. But Yu only brushes it off, insisting he wants to cook for her no matter what. As the two sisters set the table together, Nico feels a pang of guilt. Yu has been working tirelessly all week for her sake. Wanting to return the favor, she reaches for his hand and quietly tells him she wants to do something for him too. Yu responds casually, but his words make Miko's imagination spin out of control. She panics, overthinking, convinced Yu is trying to take advantage of her by demanding her time for an entire day. Alarmed, she quickly tries to set boundaries. Her sisters, watching nearby, misunderstand the situation. Believing Yu is plotting something indecent, they quickly step in, volunteering themselves to be used for the entire day as well. Miko instantly runs to her sisters for help, but in truth, Yu is completely clueless about their suspicions. To him, their offer actually makes things easier, since all he really wanted was to spend the day going to the theme park with them. The three sisters are stunned to realize that all Yu wanted was to go to the theme park. He explains that it has been his long-time dream and that he wants them all to go together as a family. Still, the sisters can't shake the thought that because they are all girls and Yu is the only boy, people might mistake it for a date. Before they can dwell on it further, Nico's phone suddenly rings. It's their father calling. However, Yu answers the phone before Nico can. On the other end, Mr. Mikadono is startled to hear Yu's voice. Without hesitation, Yu begins explaining how even prodigies need breaks and brothers, reminding him of the value he saw when they attended the festival. He insists that having breaks is important for balance. But despite all of Yu's effort to justify it, Mr. Mikadono only wants to speak directly with Miko. With that, Yu obeys and passes the phone to Miko. Mr. Mikadono immediately brings up her recent victory against Tatsumi, emphasizing that Tatsumi is known as the strongest martial artist in high school. He admits he never really believed Miko could defeat him and even considered transferring her to Tatsumi's school, but since she managed to win, he says it is no longer necessary. Yu is surprised to hear Mr. Mikadono speaking kindly, but Kazuki tells him that it's only because of her success. Even Mr. Mikadono wonders when Miko grew so strong. As he reflects, his thoughts drift back to his previous encounter with Yu. Because of that memory, he admits Yu may have a point, so he agrees to let them take a break. When Neko shares the news, Yu is overjoyed and immediately suggests they plan the trip for next Sunday. The following day, Nico visits a bookstore, flipping through magazines about fashion tips for girls. Kazuki, although busy with rehearsals, scrolls through her phone for tips on how to impress a man. Meanwhile, Miwa sits in her room reading articles on how to make a boy swoon. All three sisters are secretly preparing for the big theme park day. On the day of their visit to the theme park, Yu arrives first. Suddenly, a pair of hands covers his eyes. Miwa tells him to guess who she is, and Yu answers correctly almost immediately. When she steps forward, Miwa reveals an unusually sexy but practical outfit, making sure she can move comfortably. After all, a theme park can easily ruin someone dressed in delicate clothes. Not long after, Kazuki shows up. Her hair is styled differently, and with her long skirt and modest top, she looks almost unrecognizable. She insists it's simply a disguise so she won't attract attention, but Miwa argues she went overboard. Finally, Nico arrives. When the three turn to look at her, it's as if she's an entirely different person. Despite always claiming girly clothes don't suit her, she's wearing a cute casual outfit today, and her excuse is that it's her day off. With everyone gathered, Yu leads the way, eager to get started. What he doesn't realize is that each of the three sisters is secretly plotting the same thing, to make Yu swoon. Their first stop is in the haunted house. Yu immediately turns to Kazuki and asks if she wants to go inside, and she agrees without hesitation. Since the attraction is a collaboration with a horror film, Kazuki shows particular interest in it. At that moment, Miwa and Miko realize Kazuki is trying to make her move on Yu. Determined, Kazuki vows to be the first to impress him. As Yu invites her in, she prepares to prove how much she has mastered playing the role of a heroine. Once inside, the haunted house lives up to its reputation, and suddenly a ghostly white lady emerges from the dark. Kazuki, however, doesn't flinch. Instead, she calmly analyzes the costume, the timing, and even the actor's movements, as if she's critiquing a performance. Because of this, the ghost retreats in frustration. Only then does Kazuki realize she was supposed to act scared, so Yu could step in and protect her. But when she turns to look for him, Yu is nowhere near her side. Instead, he's crouched in a corner, trembling from fear. Kazuki tries to comfort Yu, though he pretends he merely stumbled. When another jump scare appears, he screams, clinging to her for protection. Kazuki finds herself slipping into the role of the protective figure, comforting Yu so he can calm down and snapping him back to composure. Meanwhile, Miwa and Miko, waiting outside, assume Kazuki is winning Yu over. Yet contrary to their expectation, the two suddenly emerge behind them, with Kazuki carrying Yu on her back. He's too scared to move on his own. Yu apologizes for his fear, but then thanks Kazuki for going in with him. Riding on her back comforts him, and Kazuki feels herself blushing at his words, leaving Miwa and Miko to quietly deem her the weakest among them. Now it's Miwa's turn to make her move. Miwa shows interest in the roller coaster, prompting Yu to ask her to ride together. She pretends to be frightened so he will sit beside her, while the other sisters opt out. In reality, Miwa is unbothered by fast rides. Her plan is to act like a helpless little girl and capture Yu's full attention. The roller coaster takes off, and after the thrilling ride, Miwa excitedly drops her helpless act, but she can't find Yu anywhere. Looking around, she discovers him lying on a bench, dizzy from the ride. Miwa scolds him, and Yu admits that he has always been too scared to ride anything before, but he really wanted to ride with her. Understanding this, Miwa sits beside him, letting him rest his head on her lap. Yu thanks her sincerely, and Miwa feels her cheeks heat up at his words. From afar, the other sisters realize that Miwa couldn't succeed either, and it's now Nico's turn to impress Yu. She leads him to the teacup ride, where riders can control the speed. Yu seems intrigued, but Nico plans to use her strength to spin their teacup faster. With the ride spinning wildly, she will seize the perfect moment to make her move and draw Yu closer. Once they hop into the teacup, Nico urges Yu to give it a whirl. The sudden burst of speed nearly sends him crashing into her, and Miko's cheeks flare red. Struggling to steady himself, Yu tries spinning it again, but the cup only gets faster, forcing the two even closer together. Their faces draw so near that Nico almost believes they are about to kiss. Just as her heart races at the thought, Yu nearly falls out of the ride. Luckily, Nico catches him just in time, and Nico hasn't had the chance to make her move at all. Exhausted, the four of them decide to take a break. None of the sisters have managed to make Yu blush, so they scheme to try again while eating. They grab churros and ice cream. As Yu takes a bite, Miwa notices cream smeared on his cheek. With this, she wipes it with her finger and licks it off. She waits for his reaction, but Yu simply copies her, wiping a bit off her own face and tasting it. Miwa instantly turns red. Similarly, Kazuki decides to share her drink with Yu, thinking it will finally make him flustered. She leans in, and their faces unusually close, but she panics and pushes him away before he can react. Meanwhile, Nico is still scanning the menu, struggling to choose because of her strict diet. Noticing this, Yu offers to eat half of her churro. Miko agrees, and as she takes a bite, the taste overwhelms her. She had always wanted to try churros at least once. Her sisters immediately scold her for holding back and depriving herself for so long. As their tour through the theme park continues, none of the sisters still manage to make Yu blush. By the time they prepare to head home, the three can't help but wonder why Yu wanted to go to the theme park. He can't even handle the rides, yet despite this, he faced them all, just to be with them. Suddenly, Nico notices Yu staring at family nearby, taking photos together. Realizing his true wish, she takes his phone and suggests they capture a photo. The four huddle close and snap a picture. Afterward, Nico admits she got a blast too, pointing out that they wouldn't even be here if Yu hadn't insisted. The sisters agree, each thanking him sincerely. Hearing their gratitude, Yu turns away, trying to hide his face. The three stare in shock. After all their failed attempts, he blushed so easily. Still, Yu simply smiles and returns their gratitude. Later, on the train ride home, the four quickly doze off. Miwa is the first to wake, watching Yu and her sister sleep peacefully. As her gaze drifts across the train, a flyer catches her attention. Her name is written boldly across it, alongside one word that describes her as a loner, or more so, peerless. That day, both Miko and Kazuki woke up early for practice. The theme park visit seems to have recharged them, since they suddenly feel motivated. Both agree that having a break from time to time is important. When Yu rushes over to bid them goodbye, they answer in perfect sync, and Yu can only admire their sisterly behavior. With Miwa already gone, Yu finds himself alone. As he looks around, however, his eyes fall on Miwa's lunch bag. He realizes she had forgotten to take it with her. Yu recalls how much Miwa loves his cooking, always requesting extra side dishes and snacks she wants to eat. Remembering this, he feels compelled to bring the lunch to her himself. Yu makes his way to the venue of Miwa's shogi match. He isn't entirely sure where it is, but he tries to navigate through the streets. Along the way, he notices a girl walking with a book open. It catches his attention, since it is quite unusual to see these days. The girl seems so absorbed that she accidentally bumps into a post. However, she recovers quickly and continues on as if nothing happened, but soon Yu realizes she is headed straight toward a sidewalk construction zone. Without thinking, he steps in and blocks her path, gently redirecting her back to the pavement. With this, the girl finally notices Yu and asks if he needs something. Yu doesn't answer her question, but he notices the sweat rolling down her face. With this, he offers her a pickled plum, saying they might help. Then he quickly rushes off. Sakura is left dumbfounded, staring after him in surprise. She realizes Yu is carrying pickled plums just like her. After asking for directions several times, Yu finally manages to reach the venue. Inside, rows of players sit across from one another, but Yu immediately finds Miwa. Miwa seems so sharp and focused, and you can't help but admire how cool she appears. Caught up in the moment, Yu leans toward a nearby mentor and asks if Miwa is winning. The other man doesn't know Yu. He explains that Miwa is the current title holder, so she's ranked higher than her opponent. However, Miwa seems to be under pressure right now. The opponent seems to know her move, but there's still room for a comeback. As the game progresses, Yu notices Miwa tense up. Then suddenly, she brightens up and licks her lips. At that moment, the mentor's face lights up as well, as if he already knows Miwa is going to win. He explains that Miwa licks her lips when she finds a path to victory. Once that happens, there's nothing her opponent can do. Sure enough, Miwa makes her move, and her opponent begins to tremble. The opponent can only lower her head as she formally resigns. With that, Yu finally rushes toward Miwa. She is surprised to see him there, but he immediately showers her with compliments, comparing her demeanor in the match with the one she shows at home. Yu wishes he had taken photos, though Miwa didn't really want him watching. They step outside to continue talking, where Yu reveals his real reason for coming. He shows her the lunch bag she left. Only then does Miwa realize she had no lunch with her. After handing it, Yu is about to leave, but Miwa stops him, suggesting they eat together instead. Yu agrees, but before they can start, Sakura suddenly appears and snatches the lunch from Miwa's hands. She accuses the meal of being the reason Miwa seemed off during the match. Yu quickly recognizes her from earlier. Upon realizing Miwa is eating meals specially prepared for her by a guy, Sakura immediately accuses Yu of being the reason Miwa is in a slump. She even tries to confiscate her lunch, but Miwa quickly pulls it back. Sakura is stunned to see Miwa so worked up over a simple meal, thinking her rival has sunk low. But when Yu hears Sakura call herself Miwa's rival, his eyes light up. To him, having a rival is gaining both a best friend and a worthy foe at once. Sakura proudly declares that role is hers. Miwa, however, dismisses it. She's beaten Sakura more than 100 times, and not once has Sakura managed to win. Miwa hurls sharp insults at Sakura, but Sakura insists she only wants to prove that Miwa is better than this. She points out how Miwa used to win matches in a flash, yet in her last game, she struggled. For Sakura, that is not what a super prodigy like her should look like. Yu grows confused at this. He can't tell if Sakura is praising or insulting Miwa. Determined, Sakura challenges Miwa's title, declaring she will bring an end to her era. Yu is stunned by how much she must have liked Miwa to say this, but Sakura simply states she will study Miwa closely. Eventually, they find a bench and sit together. Miwa opens her lunch and admires the beautifully prepared meal, but just as she's about to eat, Sakura sits beside her. Miwa bursts out in irritation, warning her not to bother them as they eat. Miwa immediately refuses to share a single bite of her food, but Sakura confidently insists she brought her own. When she opens her lunchbox, however, the two are left speechless. Nestled with her rice is a blackened mess. It looks like trash, but it's actually rolled omelets she made in a rush. Just as Sakura picks it up with her hand, a dog suddenly barks at her, startling her into losing grip. The food flies into the air, and in a panic, she scrambles to catch it. However, she trips forward. Instinctively, Yu rushes to help, but he slips as well. Both tumble to the ground, with Sakura landing directly on Yu's chest. Flustered, Yu immediately checks on her, but her face turns red. Embarrassed, Sakura slaps Yu, accusing him of causing a scandal. Yet Yu proudly holds up the rice ball he managed to save. Unfortunately, it's now endable. Despite this, the three can't help noticing how similar Yu and Sakura are. Standing tall again, Sakura declares her challenge once more. Miwa only grows more irritated at her persistence. Yu, however, can't stop laughing at the scene. He remembers how lonely Miwa seemed in class, and now, watching her squabble with Sakura, he realizes she may have finally found a passionate friend. Yu shares his thoughts, but Miwa insists she isn't friends with Sakura. Sakura agrees, declaring they are rivals instead. The two argue heatedly, though Sakura's words sound more like praise for Miwa than for herself. Still, they have settled it. Their shogi match will begin in 1 week. Sakura is a professional shogi player in her first year of high school, though she was overlooked by her older cohorts because of her age. Through relentless research, however, she managed to gain enough victories to rise onto bigger stages. Her hard work eventually earned her a title, yet Miwa was an exception. Sakura never managed to defeat her. She's a prodigy expected to become the first female player to break into the ranks of male professionals. No one really sees Sakura as Miwa's true rival, at least no one but herself. On their first day of the title match, he wakes up early and quietly slips out of his room, hoping not to disturb Miwa. To his surprise, Nico and Kazuki are also sneaking out. Curious, he asks why. Yu admits he plans to visit the shrine to pray for Miwa's victory. Coincidentally, Nico explains she wants to try jogging a new route that happens to lead there, while Kazuki shares she needs research for her new diviner role in an upcoming play. With this, Yu suggests they all visit the shrine together. The shrine is quiet when they arrive, but to their surprise, someone is already praying. Yu instantly recognizes her, Sakura. She notices him too, though her eyes widen more when she sees he is with Miwa's two sisters. Yu never imagined Sakura to be the type to pray, so Sakura explains that she knows she is not as naturally gifted as Miwa. With this, she seeks help wherever she can. That is when they notice the staggering number of prayer cards hanging near the shrine, all written by her. Curious, Sakura asks why Yu is with the Mikodono sisters. Yu answers honestly, saying they pulled him in by circumstance, so he has been supporting them ever since. Today, they all came to pray for Miwa's victory. Sakura cannot believe Yu calls himself their supporter. To him, it is simply the best thing a mediocre person like him can do. But this instantly makes Sakura fume. She insists Yu is letting himself be shadowed by a prodigy. Yu tries to deny it, explaining he is doing things that make him happy as well, yet Sakura won't back down. For her, the spotlight should not belong only to the gifted. She wants to be recognized too, even if she is not a prodigy. She thought she and Yu were alike, but realizing she was wrong, she stormed off, vowing to defeat Miwa in their coming match. As she leaves, Nico and Kazuki both remark on how passionate she is. Yu quietly watches her until Sakura suddenly trips again. He rushes to help, but clumsily trips alongside her, landing them both in another awkward position. The sisters are enraged because of this. Embarrassed, Yu mutters that he and Sakura really are alike, which only makes Sakura blush furiously. Nico and Kazuki finally turn back toward the shrine, pressing their hands together with fiery eyes. Together, they pray that Miwa absolutely will not lose to Sakura. After that encounter, Sakura quickly rises and storms off. Later that day, Miwa and Sakura face each other in the match. With composure, Sakura makes the first move. Meanwhile, Yu is at home watching the live online coverage. When the sisters notice, they tell him there's no need. After all, this is only one of the 5 matches, and today's result won't immediately decide the champion. But Yu insists each game is unusually close to each other due to schedule issues, so the first game is important. Still, the sisters remain confident as Miwa has never lost to Sakura once. Hours slip by, and before long, all 3 are fixed on Yu's screen. Realizing this, Yu tries to pull them closer to watch together, but they hurriedly leave, refusing to admit they care. Yet even after a while, Kazuki and Miko remain behind Yu, quietly peeking at the game. To their shock, Miwa suddenly resigns against Sakura. Yu panics, turning to see the sisters' reactions, but they only climb the stairs calmly. Yu is impressed by how composed they seem, but soon heavy slumping sounds echo from their rooms. Clearly, they did not take Miwa's loss lightly. Acting calm, Yu prepares dinner, but he goes overboard on Miwa's plate. When she finally enters the house, the 3 rush to greet her. They eagerly insist she eat, determined to cheer her up, but Miwa refuses. She acts composed, saying she will skip dinner to practice. Though usually starving after a match, she goes to her room and closes the door, leaving Yu and the sisters quietly worried. Inside her room, Miwa practices her game until she instinctively reaches for her snacks, only to realize she has already run out. With this, she steps out to look for something sweet, but instead, she finds 2 bottles waiting by her door, protein and supplements from her sisters. As she bends down to pick them up, she notices Yu slumped nearby, fast asleep. Startled, Miwa quickly tells him to sleep in his own room, but Yu reveals he had been waiting for her. He prepared midnight snacks for her, but wanted to serve them only when she stepped out. Though she finds the idea ridiculous, Miwa follows him to the kitchen. There, Yu presents a dark-colored ball that looks like solid chocolate, but he explains that there's a twist. The dark chocolate must be poured on top, but Miwa hesitates, fearing it will ruin the treat. When Yu pours the hot chocolate over it, the shell slowly melts, revealing ice cream and cookies inside. Miwa pretends not to care, yet her face reveals how much she enjoys the snack. The sugar brings her relief. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a new episode every week. You can also support our channel by joining the membership for just $2 per month. Thanks a lot for the big help.